From the top rope, this is the Squared Circus.
Square! Ah! That's the cult phenomenon. You know what I think?
Recording in progress.
I realize I like paint.
That was a botch. Hold on.
So, anyway, that's how it's gonna go.
Music to my ears of recording in progress.
Yes, hopefully it won't be interrupted by my dog sitting too much. Got two crazy dogs here trying to hump each other.
I cannot believe that he did 1.2 million views in 12 hours of Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt. That's the guy. He wears the mask.
Oh, he returned, and that's going to hurt AEW.
I think it is.
I don't think people realize how huge it was because we were both talking how like we were so pumped up with the Acclaimed and that segment, and then it just blew away. Like this Bray Wyatt deal now is like everyone is just going to be focused on what he's going to do next.
Yeah.
You know, it just took over everything.
Yeah, and I think something we've learned, and I think WWE knows this, when they booked like 2 pay-per-views in the same weekend as an AEW pay-per-view, and the AEW pay-per-view ended up kind of doing pretty poorly, that people only have so much bandwidth for wrestling. So if they're going to watch 5 hours a week of WWE, and that's not including NXT or whatever other bullshit they have going on now, are they going to tune in for Dynamite and Rampage? They already hardly tune in for Rampage.
I do think that Rampage, I do believe that if it was live, it might be a little different. If they had a different spot and it was like maybe 2 hours live.
Different times. I mean, yeah. Because they don't even take it seriously though half the time, it seems like. So
because when you're thinking about it, this is one of the things that they do wrong is that they recorded it on Wednesday. So therefore by Friday, everyone probably knows the outcome anyway. So like, all right, we'll just read up on it instead of watching it. Yeah.
You and I are good at avoiding, that stuff. But when you're like a real wrestling nerd, like most people who are probably doing wrestling podcasts, they're probably they're tuned into it every day,
So. And it just becomes, and also too, you also got to think that's when it's like their full-time job. Most of these people who are really big doing the podcast, and they made it where that's what they do.
Yeah,
of course they're gonna do one every day. They're gonna read, and so we're just doing this for fun, and and just bullshitting like we do. But we were talking about how the little things that AEW made mistakes, and it always sounds like we're just bitter people, but it's like we legit liked AEW better than WWE. We thought that like the first 2 years was so good, and then every single thing is coming into play of it looks scary for them. Like between all the backstage heat, the fights, there's actually fights backstage, multiple times.
Well, I mean that's one of the things that this Bray Wyatt thing I think drives home. It's just like AEW already is starting to have this perception of a place. It used to have a perception of the place everybody wanted to work. Now it doesn't have that perception. And when you have Bray Wyatt show up, even though we knew about this for weeks, there's something, and you said it when we were talking about like how he got the pop when he came out, even though we all knew it was coming, there's something about when it actually happens and it's true, there it is. And it's like,
it's that 1%.
It drives home the idea that people now seem to want to work for Triple H instead of Tony Khan, right? I'm sure Tony Khan put out feelers to Bray Wyatt. He was not under contract. There would have been no tampering to prevent him from doing it.
Yeah.
He chose to go to WWE.
I'm sure money had it in play, but I also think that I think Bray has a more fit in WWE. I think because he has he already is familiar with Triple H, and he probably will have more creative freedom, and it probably just works. He'll know how to work it.
Yeah.
At this time, it feels like I wouldn't be shocked that no one wants to really work at AEW right now until they get their shit together. Especially with Triple H taking over. But like we mentioned this before, it's just Khan has to stop talking shit. He has to stop taking jabs and worrying too much about the competition. That's all he does. All he does is keeps on trying to battle it, and you're not going to win, especially not with Triple H.
No, and Triple H, he's a ruthless guy. Like, I don't think Triple H is like necessarily a good dude. Maybe he is. I don't know. But like, he doesn't give a shit. He's like, I used this analogy to you before. He seems like a mob boss. If you're with him, he's got your back. You work for Triple H, it seems like he's going to work with you. He's going to be good to you. But if you don't work with him, you're either with him or you're against him kind of thing. So if you're not with him, you're the enemy and he's going to take you the fuck down. And he seems to have every intention of taking AEW down. So,
but see,
take that for what it is. If he's a good guy when you're with him, he's a bad guy if you're not. Some people think that's okay. I think it's pretty shitty, but like, if I worked for him, I might feel different.
Yeah, I think it's shitty, but then again, though, it's these people who want to go back, who worked with him and was on his good side. Of course, you want someone like that to have your back. You know what I'm saying? And then at the same time, though, I don't think he was doing that much trying to destroy AEW until Khan kept on doing all these shots and this and that. Because you got to understand, when AEW first came out, they were the only ones taking shots. They were the only ones doing the stupid, let me beat the throne up, when they freaking destroyed the throne by Triple H.
Yeah.
I know, and Cody Rhodes now works for WWE, but they were the ones who were doing all these things. You didn't hear shit from WWE side. They let it slide.
I don't know. I have no idea because I wasn't watching.
No, because I still read shit. It still comes in through my apps, and things like that. You didn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, it seems like that Khan was trying to keep on constantly say things in his scrums. He keeps on saying things in articles. He just keeps on throwing trying to throw his weight around that you don't know what you look like you're doing. So now that, of course, if you look like you're crumbling, your people are actually fighting each other, like literally fighting each other in the back. Triple H is going to be like, you know what? Let me try to grab my people back. Then if you want to play around, now we're going to just sit there and destroy you. And it's a shitty move, but as a business owner and as a person who's you can't knock it because of the fact that who knows what, if it's a competition, Khan would do it in a heartbeat. Khan would do it in a heartbeat. If he could grab all these people and do all this shit and whatever that Triple H is doing, he would do it because he's trying to.
Yeah, you might be right. But I mean, that makes it look even worse for Khan. But partially, the Triple H thing, going behind, the whole, obviously, and this is another way Tony's kind of taking shots at WWE, right? Because they've got Matt Hardy now doing the whole quote unquote contract tampering thing, which is obviously a shot at WWE because it's clear that Triple H is maybe not directly talking to people in AEW to try to lure them away, but having other people talk to them. Andrade even made an allusion to it, saying, I don't need to talk to Triple H. My wife works there, right? So the idea was Triple H talked to Charlotte to talk to Andrade. It's real underhanded shit, and it's pretty shitty. And I'd say, as far as I'm concerned, fuck Triple H. He's a dirtbag. You know what I mean? But Tony Khan is being a fucking dick too. And I don't know if it's if he was – what makes Tony Khan worse is he started off as the good guy boss. Everybody wanted to work for him. And now he's just turning into Vince, and he's taking shots at them and he's trying to make it we're creating this better product. And it's just just be different. Just forget about WWE, do your own thing and be different. The worst thing he's doing right now is keeping those people under contract who don't fucking want to be there. That's some Vince shit. Don't do that. Back in the day, I know we've talked about this before, but he seemed to we're cool with everybody. We're going to partner with New Japan and Impact and NWA and Chinese promotion. I don't remember the name of, and it doesn't matter in AAA. And it's an open door and I'm the good boss and you're going to come here and have creative freedom and all this stuff. But the longer he's there, the more he's micromanaging it seems. And the more he's doing underhanded Vince shit and this shit where he's trying to force those people to stay in their contracts is some Vince shit. They don't want to be there. Let him go. Go back to the Tony from 3 years ago. It's if you don't want to be here, we'll let you go. It's cool, and that's the good boss thing. Now you look like a hypocrite because you were pretending to be the good boss for however many years. And now you're doing the opposite. And guess what? If you let Andrade go when he said he wanted to go, you wouldn't have all this fucking turmoil right now with him and Sickme. You wouldn't have that as the headline for 2 weeks. The headline for AEW is backstage turmoil. It looks like a mess. It looks like the inmates are running the asylum. It looks like the people who work there don't want to be there. And what's the headline for WWE? Bray Wyatt returns.
Yeah. I do agree. I do agree with contracts, but see, my opinion with that though is that if you're in a position that your place looks like a joke now, you really should just let them go because damn well the outcome is going to be way worse, and you have to play nice. These networks are probably what the fuck, what I'm saying? If it keeps on going the way it's going. and I understand, like, people don't like to talk about views and this and that, but it's huge. If they have this where they look like a joke, and they say TNT and TBS or whatever the fuck, like they say, you know what, we don't even want you here. You know how hard it is going to be to get a place then if you're looking like this. So you have to play nice, and I feel like him being the whole, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. He always looks like he's coked out. He always looks like he's like crazy and doesn't know what he's doing, and he's just sitting. And which he doesn't though. Like, and you can't tell me that all these things will work. They will turn him into work. But this is not work. You having two people fight. They all said that Andrade did that because he wants to get out of his contract. That's the main reason why he started the fight. Yep. Actually, I heard that Sammy didn't do anything. He was the one. Andrade is the one who punched him. He's the one who addressed him. He's the one. Sammy didn't even want to fight. He tried so hard not even to fight. So Andrade obviously did this after told not to do this because he just wants to get let go. And to me, it's like, okay, do you want that more in the news? Because you're in the news for the wrong reasons. And then all of a sudden, like you said, you all look like a joke. And then Bray Wyatt comes along and he said, oh my God, everyone's going, like, you said it before, you mentioned that the ratings were going high just because he was teased to come back. So people kept on wanting to watch it more and more to see if he would come back. That's the huge impact that he has.
Yeah, you know that's what I heard, that like all the ratings for Raw and SmackDown recently that have been so high is because in anticipation of maybe Bray Wyatt will show up. So he does have that impact. And again, like it shows that obviously there was a war to get Bray Wyatt back, and WWE won. I don't give a shit because I don't really care about Bray Wyatt. And so I don't watch WWE, so it doesn't necessarily matter to me. But it does show that, like, if Tony Khan wants to participate in this as a competition, he's going to lose. And it's just another example of it. And then the fact that, like, the scissoring day on Wednesday was like one of the hottest things that they've done in a long time. And 3 days later, it's overshadowed. Like, WWE seems to be good at just like, they whatever know you've got, we've got something bigger.
That they always know they're playing chess, and they always know the right moves to make. Because if this pay-per-view didn't have Bray Wyatt, it was, I could see, I haven't watched WWE in a while. But like when I watched this pay-per-view, even though I was only half-ass watching it because I was just hoping to see Bray come back, I noticed that the matches are better. I noticed that there's more wrestling, there's more storytelling, there's more, like, it just seems to be a better show. But if Bray Wyatt didn't come back at all, that show wouldn't have overpowered certain things. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But because they're like, okay, we know, like you said, they know exactly what to do. And even though you don't care about Bray, and you're like, oh, I don't care about Bray, so it doesn't matter, I won't watch WWE. But when you look at my perspective, I'm like, Bray's the reason why I started watching wrestling. Yeah. So I'm actually more interested now and taking the turns because of all the bullshit that's happening in AEW. And I'm still watching AEW because that's pretty much, most of the people I enjoy is there anyway. And Eddie Kingston's there too. So, so I'll still watch that. But now I'm a little bit more focused now. Like I'm a little bit more like, okay, I want to like kind of like watch. So therefore, if I'm watching WWE and like I see what Bray's doing and I'm enjoying it, then all of a sudden you get involved in other people then, because now you're just watching for one person. But then that's how it works. You all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, this is not so bad. Yeah. And then you just kind of shift gears again. And
2 weeks you're gonna be the biggest Baron Corbin fan.
Yeah. So I feel that like that would be with a lot of people. I think, and this whole episode is not about Bray, but it's about of all the things that pretty much AEW kind of led up to this. Like, I feel like, they need one good thing. And I think I mentioned this before, was that Mox with his new roles, I think will help. I know you disagree where like they should just get, other talent that's not performers, which I agree, because I when Triple H did it, I didn't like him as a performer, but I loved what he did for NXT. Yeah. So I do think Mox would be good.
NXT under Triple H was awesome. But again, I've said this before. This points out everything I think that I've talked about Triple H so far today too. It's just like Triple H, when he was running NXT, was like, it was awesome. NXT was great, but he was still the asshole who had to get over on Sting, his one WrestleMania.
Yeah. As a performer-wise, I didn't like him. Yeah, performer-wise, but as a behind the scenes, I did.
No, and everybody seemed to like working for him. So,
and that's what's scary though, because when you're thinking of how good NXT was under Triple H and how the other ones weren't that great, now that Triple H is running those and he's trying to grab his army back that he had from NXT, It's a little scary for AEW. They have to really. It was scary when Triple H first came about, and then now just the moves is definitely, especially when you like have fucking Andrade's bullshit and then Punk's bullshit, and it was a domino effect.
Yeah,
and I'm like, so I'm hoping Mox will actually get involved better in the back.
Well, if you think about what the core AEW fan is, I believe it's that fan that was a WWE fan who loved CM Punk and then who loved NXT. And when CM Punk got done wrong, they were pissed. They were the people who were chanting CM Punk every time they didn't like something. Yeah. They're the people who hijacked Raw to make sure Daniel Bryan got over. And they were the people who were watching NXT who wanted more of the NXT that they had under Triple H. And they wanted more of like, feuds that like, with Ciampa and Gargano. They wanted the old Sami Zayn and what was his name? Neville before he was Pac. So like, now that you've got Triple H first you've got Punk kind of ruined his whole thing. Like the mystique is gone. A lot of people are still going to stand by him, but at least half, maybe more than half of the fans are like
more than half.
The shine is off the bloom is off the rose for them with Punk. And now they've got WWE starting to possibly become the NXT they loved. A lot of those people I think were Bray Wyatt fans too back in the day. And now that he's back here, they got Gargano. I just talked about him being like one of those feuds, his feud with Ciampa as being like one of their favorite things. Like, it looks like more and more like WWE is becoming the thing that they were looking for when they left WWE 3 years ago.
Fans, workers, everyone.
And on the other hand, AEW is becoming more and more like the WWE they didn't like.
Yeah.
The Jade Cargill is of today is the Roman Reigns of 5 years ago. The person that they feel is undeserved, getting a push for no reason other than how they look, and a heel who is, and Roman wasn't a heel, but like nothing they're doing with Jade makes sense. She's like the heel, but she's like the face. She's on every poster and everything like that. They have all the same stupid endings. Every match ends in like a DQ, not a DQ, sorry, but like an interference or a distraction or some other. WWE did more of the DQs. There are actually more wins and losses in AEW, but they're all shit.
Yeah.
They're not conclusive wins and losses. The whole thing, we even get into the wins and losses matter. They don't fucking matter.
Did you notice too that the crowds even chanting out shit in the shows more? They used to always pump up and they used to always cheer on all the AEWs, but now if you notice, there's some times where they're actually showing a lot of displeasure where like they're fucking chanting out bad shit and chanting out like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and they didn't do that. The first 2 years, they were just pumped up. And I think they're just starting to see the whole turmoil of just going to a vortex of shit. And you're like, uh-oh. And then so now you're like, you know what? Maybe I should just give this a try again of WWE. And I guarantee you, they're going to lose fans again because they're going to just keep on gearing towards WWE. And then in a year from now, we're going to be like just talking about WWE, and it's not even going to be AEW.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, listen, I don't like. I don't care what the ratings are personally, right? I'm never somebody who likes the most popular thing.
Yeah,
so that doesn't matter to me. I don't feel validation on saying like, oh, AEW is getting better ratings than WWE. That doesn't mean much to me. It might be validating in my opinions. If I say this would work better and then they do it and it gets a higher rating, I feel like my opinion's validated. But personally, my own tastes are not the most popular thing. So it doesn't matter to me, right? Before AEW, I was watching Ring of Honor. I was watching New Japan. I was watching stuff that wasn't as popular as WWE because I liked it better. But it's important to Tony Khan. It's important to the networks. If they want to keep the show, they have to have ratings. And I think that's short-circuiting Tony Khan. He can't do the thing that AEW was supposed to be and make the networks happy at the same time. So what's he trying to do? To me, it seems like he's trying to be WWE. And it's starting to suck. I don't want to see Pac take another fucking bell hammer to somebody. There's just no point. It was like back in WWE when Rollins was champ for a little while years ago. And he was a heel champ, and he had like the M&M security, whatever those two cronies, and every match was like a dirty match. And after a while, I'm like, just give him some real wins.
Yeah.
He's like one of your best wrestlers, and all he does is cheat all the time. And I know he's a heel, but like, come on, and it was one of those things that was like sort of like, that was still during the time like Reigns is the guy that we believe in, but we're going to put Seth Rollins in there because somebody has to be champ, and we don't want Reigns to get booed. And the fans seem to prefer Rollins, even though he's a heel. So give him some legit wins. And AEW is having that same problem now. Everything is a cheap win. And then, we didn't even talk about this yet, but I think it's a perfect distillation of like who's doing what right and wrong. And it's something that's very important to us. Brodie Lee.
Yeah.
It was the anniversary of Brodie Lee's last match, I believe, Friday, right?
Yes.
When Brodie Lee died, the episode they did of AEW was maybe the best episode of wrestling ever. It was so good. And what made it great was it made the person more important than the wrestling. The whole show was Dark Order people going over. It didn't matter what their status was. Colt Cabana, I think, beat somebody. Like, it didn't matter that none of those Dark Order guys were like top card guys for the most part. It was for Brodie. And it felt like we put the business aspect of this aside and made it personal in a good way. And it was beautiful. What did they do this year? They book a trios match, and the main event at 11 o'clock at night, practically on a Friday, to have the Dark Order lose in another cheap ending of a match that was fine. And then follow that by a bunch of other Battle of the Belts enhancement matches. It was so diminished. It was like in the middle of these two shows. It didn't even feel like a main event because the other show after it. And it was just like, we'll throw these guys. Nothing is really left of the Dark Order. Here are the people who are still here, which is another reminder of like everybody leaving.
Yeah.
Alan Angels and Stu Grayson. Like, why aren't those guys still there? I'd rather see Alan Angels in that team than number 10. And I know number 10 had a relationship with Brodie, but like, it's another clunky big guy who just doesn't look that good.
That's another thing too with Bray Wyatt is he left originally before he got let go because he took Brodie Lee's death really hard.
Yeah,
and it was just kind of nice to see the little nods. I don't know how one is proven, but the fact that he wore this, he had one of them wear the same mask when he was in the Bludgeon Brothers.
Yes.
And then like the light things, I could see it where it's because it's when Brodie Lee first came out, so you could tell he had little.
So what Richie's trying to describe is there's a famous picture of Brodie Lee when he first came out with this like blue and white light behind him, like radiating out of a narrow doorway, which looked a lot like Bray Wyatt. Did I say Brodie Lee? Did I say the right name?
Yeah.
When Brodie Lee first showed up in AEW, the big bright light behind him, and when Bray Wyatt came out of the door, there was that bright blue and white light that looked almost exactly like the light that Brodie Lee came out with. And then you also pointed out to me one of the characters, one of the
Firefly
Bray Wyatt
Funhouse
characters from the Firefly Funhouse was wearing the same mask that Brodie wore as a Bludgeon Brother when he was in the Bludgeon Brothers with Eric Rowan. To me, those little things are way more thoughtful a tribute to the guy than like, let's book 3 jobbers in a match that they lose.
Yeah. But
just like
to Khan's defense, I'm pretty sure all that was Bray Wyatt and not WWE.
It doesn't matter. It shows you the difference of like who's putting thought into this and who's not.
Yeah.
Tony Khan could have done something thoughtful and he didn't. He did quote unquote business. What was it? Whenever the anniversary of the Brodie Lee match, the first time they did a Brodie Lee match, they put the person before everything else. They did the opposite this time. We can't put these guys over because they're lower on the card. it's a sharp contrast. It's the difference between Tony Khan then and Tony Khan now. Tony Khan being the good guy that everybody loves, everybody wants to work for, and Tony Khan being just a cold-blooded businessman, just doing what's right for the company to get the ratings. And it's all gone out the window. To me, that's just the perfect example of it. Yeah. And if you wanted to put those guys on and put them over, don't put them against the trios team that you don't want to lose the belts to yet. Forget the show. You're trying to do the anniversary of Brodie Lee. Change it up. Do something different. You don't have to do that fucking match. Take another match off. If suddenly you're like, oh, we had this other stuff booked, so we have to do it. You don't have to fucking do it.
Yeah.
You get to decide what gets done and what doesn't. If you decide you don't want whatever, I can't even remember what matches we're on now. You don't have to have the trios match. You don't have to have the Death Triangle on there. Put the Varsity Blondes and somebody in there. I don't know. Put them over somehow. There's no reason to have that match. And then you've got Pac in a match at 11 o'clock. The show ends. The last match of the show is Pac and the Lucha Bros. 11 o'clock show goes off. 11:01, the next show goes on. And there's Pac again. Why did you have to have Pac in that last match? First of all, that's just weird. To do that when you have so many people who are not getting any TV time. Second of all, you could have put somebody else in there for the Dark Order to go over on.
Yeah.
Come on. It's just so fucking stupid.
Yeah. I just think I'm just hoping that Khan, the only thing I feel like is right, like I said, is Mox coming in, and I do think he'll help out. I see little changes. So I'm hoping that he's listening, but I think he's too far up into it, and he's too he has an ego, and he's very control freak manner. So I feel like he took on way too much. Ever since Ring of Honor, ever since he bought Ring of Honor, everything kind of went downhill because I think he just added too much to his plate, and it was just too much at once. Because if you notice, when he bought Ring of Honor, that's when he had all these other people, all these other, Matt. It just seemed like it was way too much for him, for someone who is still learning. You're still learning how to do a wrestling company. Yeah. So instead of mastering that and building that, you go and buy Ring of Honor.
Which would have been fine. You can own a business and have somebody else run it. He had to run it himself, and he has to run both these businesses himself. And I've talked about this before, so it might sound like a repeat. I get it. He was a fan, and this was like a fantasy thing for him. I'm going to own this wrestling company. I'm going to book it the way I want it. And I think that worked for a long time because it gave you a fan perspective. It was booked the way the fans would want it, and it made the fans happy. And that was great until he couldn't be a fan anymore. He had to be a businessman. And then it made it all look like that was bullshit. That was pretend Tony. This is the real Tony. And honestly, I'm not going to blame him for being a control freak. I'm not going to blame him for not necessarily not knowing what he's doing, but definitely for taking on more than he could handle. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, you needed to pass it on. I get it. You took it over. You had your idea of what you want to do with it. That's great. But it got too much. And you can only fake it till you make it for so long, dude. And I think when you get that fake it till you make it attitude, that turns people into controlling people. Mm-hmm.
And then it just was a domino effect. We can't sit here and blame Punk because all this stuff was brewing in the back. All this stuff was brewing in the back. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that Punk put it more to the light. So he probably had some truth to a lot of the things he was saying. Who knows? That's, we already set our piece with that, but it just seemed like after the past year, it was brewing, and now it's all out in the open. And what's worse is that these people can't shut the fuck up. So therefore nothing could be settled. Because I'm sure, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's plenty of shit that goes on in WWE behind the scenes that we don't know about shit like this. But they have a way of saying this is why they control their Twitter and this and that, saying you're not allowed to do, you know what I'm saying? So they know that they're strict with all that. So shit like this doesn't come out. So don't start trying to, that's more just trying to be WWE though. Don't be controlling their Twitter and social media. No, I don't think so.
Deal with the stuff at the source. Just be the boss you pretended to be 2 years ago. If you let these people go when they wanted to go, there wouldn't be turmoil. There wouldn't be, there'd still be the Punk and all that stuff. It'd have been one thing. You'd have dealt with it and moved on to the next thing instead of this domino effect Let the people who go who don't want to be there. Don't try to sign every fucking person. I mean, this is the thing people have been talking about. AEW fans have been talking about for close to a year, which is like too many people. You don't need to sign everybody. And they're still like the people that got signed and try to get signed. Okay, cool. We liked him. You know, he was an NXT champion and we enjoyed him then. And I think it was the Sombra before that. I don't really watch, but people liked it. It's like trying so hard to ride the coattails of WWE by signing every person that they get rid of and trying to start to do matches the way they do them. It's just, dude.
Yeah.
If you just did it the way you started doing it, you'd be fine. If you let these people go, they wouldn't be fighting. If you had a workplace environment that seemed conducive, if you didn't hire too many people and have everybody feel like they're not getting their spot, you wouldn't have these issues.
Yeah, it just sucks. It sucks for me because I feel like every time we do these, it's like we always just go into tangents because it's like it's frustrating because if we did this podcast when they first came out, it would be a lot of positive podcasts.
Nothing but positive.
Yeah, it was the first 2 years was nothing but positive. The reason why we made this is because we just wanted an outlet to fucking vent because of the shit that's pissing us off. So we sound like bitter people, but it's like the first 2 years we were enjoying it so much that we're like, oh, that's like cool, blah, blah, blah. But then all of a sudden you're like, what the fuck, and this and that, and like I can't believe, you know. So now we just sound like bitter people. But so we're hoping that it just gets better. I didn't even talk about like the other WWE, like there's the thing coming up Wednesday. I don't even remember what's called. It's another Dynamite. I think it has a cute name that they give it. And now it's got all these big matches. And it seems to be that thing they're doing again, where everything that's leading up to it, it's a build and doesn't really matter. And nobody gets what they want because they're all building to another show. So there's all these matches that are supposed to be like the decisive matches on Wednesday. More WWE shit where we're not going to give you anything you want, because we have this show to build up to. And so then on the show, maybe you'll get something, but it'll be too late. I have to add something. Do we need Battle of the Belts if none of the belts ever get changed?
I know. I don't know
why.
Do
you know what I'm saying? Like this is like every time when they have Battle of the Belts, not one of them changed. So what's the point of all the matches? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to say this about Battle of the Belts. Like I was really annoyed about having Willow in that match with Jade. But the match was actually, I enjoyed it. It was better than I thought it'd be. And all the matches were fine, but like it didn't need to happen. That could have been Rampage instead.
I just noticed that because I totally missed it. Like I told you, I totally forgot it was Friday. And I think maybe because we put the podcast on like Thursday and I just don't, for some reason I don't know what it was. But when I was reading the Battle of the Belts and I'm like, once again, none of them changed. So I'm like, why are you having this? Like, just have one belt change, but you do it where it's like, okay, so this way here, you can see the belts being in the matches, but if it's just all useless shit that you don't need.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So bottom line is, I mean, Tony Khan's losing control. WWE right now is starting to really, by contrast, show the flaws of AEW.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt's introduction really like put the last nail in the coffin, it seems, for like AEW's flaws.
Because now for myself, I'm going to be watching Raw just to see what he does.
Yeah, more people are going to be watching. And it's like what Tony Khan used to do is to let go of AEW or let go of WWE. Just let it go. Don't think about it. Stop trying to be WWE. You don't need to do all the same shit. You don't need to do a million ladder matches, like you said, where the guy pretends to climb slow up the ladder. Like that could have been a perfect example of what you're doing different. WWE, all this corny ladder match shit. We're not going to do that. WWE has these stupid backstage things where somebody stands in front of a TV in a fucking weird way that doesn't make any sense and is not natural.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do that. Like just It's just they're doing all the same shit. And the longer they're around, the more they're just copying WWE or trying to undercut WWE in promos or scrums or by taking all the talent that leaves. Stop it, dude. Do your own thing. There would be a lot more viewers. And I know you think you're going to get the rub from the WWE people you bring over. There'd be a lot more viewers if today the core people that are on Dynamite every week were the people you started with. If Darby Allin was a tag team champ or a mid-card champ, if you had Orange Cassidy at the top of the card, if you had, at least you have the Acclaim. Like Moxley's doing great, sure. He's kind of an original guy though. But like, they didn't need Rusev and Andrade and Malachi Black, as great of a wrestler as he is. They didn't need these people, and now they don't want to be there. They brought him in with no idea what to do with him. Another classic WWE treat. Let's just sign everybody we can, even though we don't have anything for them. And then the fans will be annoyed that their favorite wrestler is getting benched every week.
Yeah.
Or buried.
Well,
I'm done.
It's always the same, you're jumping someone else.